Open the meeting. First up, order of business, consideration of and approval of minutes. Has everybody had an opportunity to take a look at those? Yeah. Speaker Hawkins.
I move approval of the minutes.
Got a motion to approve, seconded by Vice President Schellenberger. Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. Actually, can you guys online, can you all hear us?
Yes.
Yep.
I heard 2 out of 3. Who am I missing? Did that? Okay. All right. We got you all. Next is appointment to the Legislative Budget Committee. That'll be me. I'm appointing, well, not me, the OCR met, and we were appointing Senator Cluse as vice chair, or not as vice chair, as our Legislative Budget Committee. That was the motion.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item 3, consideration and approval of legislative agency budgets. Dylan, I think you're up first.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. President, Chair. So I have the summary memorandum. It's just a couple of pages up front, summarizes the major adjustments to both the current year and the budget year, agency budgetary submissions. There is also the various agency memorandum that are attached to the back of that. I will defer to the various directors of the agencies to answer questions about it, but the overview memorandum just sort of gives you an idea of what to look for. So if you look at the table to start off with, and it's the one with the green bar sort of in the middle here, we have the legislature's budget, legislative research, post-audit, LCC, and revisor of statutes. The table starts with actuals, and it has the 26 legislative approved, and that was what was approved last year. Then it has SGF reappropriations. That creates the new 26 approved. Then you have a revised estimate, which are your agency budget submissions on that. So of SGF reappropriations, you're looking at about $5.2 million in reappropriated dollars carrying forward. The total 26 approved is 55.2. And the 26 revised estimate is 56.5. Now that's all funds. So if you look at the very first line on legislature, you see an increase of $2.6 million. That's not an SGF increase going into that. That is the amount of the ARPA funds. So in FY25, the legislature chose to budget the full $5 million of available ARPA funds for the ks modernization project. Those funds were not fully expended, so this is just carrying those funds forward into the next fiscal year. With that, I would go to the bullets. So you have an addition of $2.6 million from ARPA funds for ks modernization, which I just discussed. These are carryover funds. You have $500,000 SGF to modernize the voting board. You have $400,000 SGF for Amazon Web Services conversion and mainframe retirement. You have $400,000 SGF for a redistricting special session. That's 4 days. There's $400,000 SGF to increase legislative compensation by 4.4% starting January 1st, 2026. This is still an estimate. So, all that BLS data still has to be finalized, and then you will receive a certification that will come from the revisor of statutes for that amount, but this is the estimate to put into the budget. There's $200,000 SGF for session staff pay adjustments. I believe Tom briefed you on that at the last LCC meeting. There's $100,000 SGF for K-12 funding simulator. This would be a program that would show different sort of parameters on a revised funding formula. There's $127,380 in one FTE position for a CETO. $105,600 and one FTE position for a CISO. Both those are half-year funding, so that assumes that position would start in January of next year. There's $90,000 SGF for the worldwide tech contract. That's for our video boards. Turning to the Legislative Research Department, there's a lapse of $150,000 SGF for current year cost reductions. There's an addition of $60,000 SGF for redistricting license fees. I believe that's for 6 licenses. There's $80,000 SGF for office remodeling and expansion of the State House Annex in 26. LPA has a lapse of $332,419. The LCC has a lapse of $494,000 for current year cost reductions and an add of $120,000 SGF to fund accumulated leave payments. And the Office of Revisor of Statutes has a lapse of $326,775. And with that, I would stand for questions on the current year budget before we move to the budget year.
Questions for Dylan? Senator Sykes.
Thank you. Thank you for this information, Dylan. I wish we had actually received this earlier than 10 minutes before our meeting. So I do have questions, and I will ask, I think, part of this to you, but also part of it will be targeted to you.
I'll just wait, and if you want it from me, just say my name.
So my question is on the redistricting for the special session. So 400,000 in SGF for the special session, but then for those redistricting licenses of 60,000, it's my understanding it's over $100,000 a day, and you said 400 for that. Do we have a complete understanding? And then maybe my question for the president is, where are we on this as we are planning? Because this is a financial request, and it's taxpayer money, and I think we do need to see what that overall cost is.
That may be mine, I suppose. So just like you look down, there's 100,000 for the K-12 funding simulator. We're preparing for what might be, right? So, and if it's not, if we ultimately don't end up using it, it just lapses back. So we're at this point preparing for what is likely to happen.
So then I think a follow-up. So the 400,000 is for the special session, but what are there other costs besides the redistricting licenses? Is that 100,000 including staff or different positions? Anything in there? Thank you.
To answer the question, I anticipate that to be more than sufficient to cover the days that we'll be here for special session.
My request. So for the licensing for redistricting, those are required because it's new. Our current license have expired, so this is in addition. So that's a different line
I'll
item.
let Dylan answer the licensing piece.
Thank you.
Certainly. So the technical portions of the redistricting are actually in the Legislative Research Department. So typically what happens is we incur fees for new equipment. We can continue to use the existing equipment. This is for some of those technical pieces, is that $60,000. And the actual cost for salaries and wages for legislators and mileage and everything else, that is in the legislature's budget. So you see two pieces of that. And again, this is for 4 days. It also includes mileage and expenses to come in and to leave. And the exact amount will, of course, vary depending upon the number of days that special session goes on for.
Further questions for Dylan? Anyone online? Seeing none, we can move on then.
All right. So if we look at FY 2027, so for the legislature, okay, there's the addition of $400,000 for the Amazon Web Services conversion and mainframe replacement. There's the $200,000 SGF for session staff pay adjustments. That's the exact same $200,000. You just see it in both years. There's the $50,000 SGF for a K-12 funding simulator. That's about half what you had in the previous year. We're assuming there'll be some ongoing costs, but it won't be as large as the setup costs. There's $255,000 in one FTE position for the CETO, $211,200 in one FTE position for the CISO. There's a deletion of $149,000 to move disaster recovery to AWS. So this is when you start to begin to see some of the savings, and you'll start to see these savings going from 27 into 28 as you make that AWS conversion. There's a deletion of $113,000 SGF for the Cisco Smart contract, and there's also a deletion of $67,000 for the Indica Surge contract. There are no major adjustments for any of the legislative agencies in FY 2027 other than the ones you've already seen. With that, I would stand for questions.
Questions for Dylan on 27? Seeing none.
Well, the last page, real quick, is just a summary of of these legislative agency budgets. You've already seen this, and I would also like to offer the opportunity for any of the directors who provide additional information to have the opportunity to address the committee.
Sure. Gordon, do you have anything on advisors?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the Office of Revisor of Statutes, our information is in the summarized document, but I wanted to touch base with a couple things. We're we're not asking for any additional money in the revised 2026 budget, and we are lapsing the reappropriation. For 2027, we are also, the amount we're asking is the amount we asked for 2026. We have some unfilled positions, attorney positions that we are, trying to fill at this moment. In fact, we're doing interviews this week. But I wanted to just always keep reminding you, one of the critical things for me is to be able to keep our folks and be competitive in terms of providing you the best legal representation. So we continue to each year evaluate the salaries, the comparable salaries with other state agencies, and the judicial branch, the Attorney General's office, et cetera, executive branch agencies, and local government. And just for an example, we've gotten data already that some locals, their starting salary for attorneys with zero experience is about $10,000 higher than our starting salary. And our starting salary in the revisor's office is very competitive with other state agencies. So this is an ongoing, overture that my staff is continuing to try to make sure that we can, attract and keep and provide the best legal representation for you. But I wanted you to know it's an ongoing exercise. There is a difference between what we spent and what we're asking for, and that is a hope that we'll be able to fill those positions with attorney candidates. So if you have any questions.
Any questions for Gordon? Senator Sykes.
Thank you. Thanks, Gordon. So on here it says your actual is 33.5. So how many of those positions are currently filled? How many are you trying to fill?
We have, it's kind of odd, we have 3.5, and the half position is, we had used the half position in the past for the revisor emeritus to bring back a revisor with experience, so that position is unfilled. We have 2 unfilled assistant revisor positions. As I indicated, we're interviewing right now to fill them. And then the editor of statutes position is vacant right now because I'm taking on those responsibilities. And so 2 attorney positions is what we're trying to fill.
Further questions? Seeing none, Tom, Senator Schallenberger.
Thank you. I guess this is for Dylan. And you can probably sit there and answer it. I'm just assuming that the 26 legislative budget went up so much because of salary. That was when the pay kicked in? Is that what that's all about?
So there is some impact as a result of the full year implementation of the legislative compensation plan, but you also have KLIS modernization, okay, that's going in there. So the majority of those expenses for KLIS modernization are reflected in the 26 budget.
Tom, did you have anything on your end? No.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to talk about the Legislative Coordinating Council just for a little bit. The council, just a reminder, the council's budget includes legislative and administrative services and the 8 FTE positions that are in legislative services. The other parts of the LCC's budget is the operations of the council. So all of your meetings are out of that budget, your travel, your subsistence, those are all included in the LCC's budget. Costs for the salaries increased in accordance with Senate Bill 125 of this 2025 session, and expenditures also are reflected in the revised budget for FY26. The agency proposed lapsing $494,000, which is part of the $1 million budget proviso for the constituent relationship management service. The contractual services include those costs for the second year of that contract, which is $543,415. The increased salary and mileage expenses for LCC meetings are also included in the revised FY26 budget, as well as accumulated leaves for anticipated retirements. And with that, Mr. President, I would stand for any questions.
Are there any questions? Senator Sykes.
A lot of questions today. Thank you. Can you talk about the IndiGov constituent relationship management? Like how many offices are using that? Can we get an update on that?
The last I knew, Senator Sykes, there were 3 offices. I know that there has been one request to be removed from the IndiGov system, and that just came in about a week ago. I do know that the House Minority Leader's Office did have some training about 2, maybe 3 weeks ago, but I don't know where that stands as far as those that may have taken the training if they've asked to be included in the system. I have not had an opportunity to have an update from IndiGov in the last couple weeks, so I'm not exactly sure where it all stands at the moment.
And on that contract, are we just paying for who is using, or was there a certain amount that we were paying for?
The second year of the contract, which has not been paid yet, is not due for another 45 days or thereabouts, maybe even 60 days. That includes 300 licenses for $543,000 and change.
And out of the 3 offices that are using, I'm assuming that there's maybe more licenses than 3 that are currently being used? Or is it just 3?
I believe it may be a couple in each of the offices, but it'd be 3 offices, but maybe 2 people, 3 people in the office as well. So it's actually 6 or 7 seats, as IndiGov calls them, basically licenses.
Further questions? Seeing none, I think we're ready. These need a motion for approval of the legislative agency budgets. Speaker Hawkins.
I move we approve the budgets.
Got a motion? Is there a second?
Second.
I got a second by Senator Schallenberger. Sorry, you guys online, I can't see you, so. All right, further discussion. Further questions? Senator Blasey.
Thank you, Mr. President. I apologize. I did not get to do my due diligence on this because I didn't know we were actually approving the budget today. I thought we were just gathering information, discussing it. But based on, I think everyone in this room at least know, and the director certainly know, that we've lost some good staff just because there's higher paying jobs out there, especially in the public sector, with Johnson County being so close and Douglas County. And we've lost some really good researchers and revisers and even administrative staff, I think partly because our salaries are not competitive enough. And the last several years, the legislature has done a phenomenal job on making salary investments where it's been needed with the judiciary, with several departments like the Highway Patrol, Corrections, and various other departments, because they're essential to our government's work and the service we provide to Kansans. And I think this branch of government, this legislative branch of government is, as I said in previous meetings, always seems to be the last branch to take care of itself. And so I think we need to enhance the salary increases for each department so that department heads can decide based on merit so we can ensure that we keep our very best employees. And so I'd make a substitute motion to approve this budget, these budget requests, but with a 10% increase for merit-based salaries for the legislative agencies, research, post-audit, LAS, and revisers of statutes. It wouldn't include lawmakers or legislative leadership employees, but certainly welcome the discussion from the committee. But that would be my motion.
I have a motion. Is there a second? Second by Senator Schallenberger. Is there discussion? And I would add, I think those are fair comments, and we do need to look at that. This isn't just a recommendation moving forward. We're going to have the budget process in January, which obviously ultimately is going to be the deciders, the entire legislature, not just us. So, further discussions? Senator Sykes.
So I appreciate the motion. Again, I mean, we got this budget 10 minutes before this meeting, and we're being asked to approve it. And I think it's kind of blow in the face of what our legislature is trying to do of, taking on the budget process, which I think everyone knows I was opposed to, because I think it's adding extra FTEs in there. I do think we need to be digging deeper in doing this, but if we approve this today without really doing our due diligence, I think we are going against everything that as a legislature we tried to put in place by taking over the budget process last year.
So again, I would just add to that this is staff's recommendation of these budgets, and they will be evaluated in that process in the session. This is not, that's why you don't go, and by the way, I'm sure each one of the agency heads would have loved to seen you in their offices with your recommendations that would have been ahead of this. So this is kind of routine as we put it in, so certainly not meant to diverge from what we're trying to accomplish, but this is where we're at, and we'll make this decision. Further discussion, Senator Sykes.
And if I may, but we got the agenda last night, so as a member of this body, we didn't even know this was what we were being asked to do today. Thank you.
Work to be better in the future. For the record, I did not either, as the chairman, right? This is these things that are relatively routine, and we normally do, but your objection is noted, and we'll make sure we can get you as soon as we can. Further discussion, criticisms, condemnations, we'll take them all. Right. Senator Blasey.
Just one more comment. I just, as you said earlier, this is just the first step. The legislature will obviously take a look or deeper dive into all this. But I just want our legislative employees to know that we very much appreciate them and all they do. We know they make big sacrifices during the session like the rest of us, spending late nights, early mornings, weekends, writing bills and stuff. So hopefully this is just one gesture to show that we really appreciate them.
Senator Schallenberger.
Thank you. I understand this is basically just the LCC's forwarding on to the budget people our recommendation, but I don't see anything wrong with recommending a 10% increase for these parts of the legislative budget that the majority leader has talked about. So I just want the budget people to know that I support the extra 10% if they want to do it. Thank you.
Further questions or comments? Anybody online? All right, hearing, seeing none. No more discussion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Budgets are approved with the amendment from Senator Blasey. Consideration and approval of session document packet service pricing for 2026. Tom, I think that's yours.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is the annual docket service report from Legislative Services for the document packets, the bill packets that are put out every year based on requests from the agencies or lobbyists or law firms. Currently, in the 2025 session, we had 34 packets that we distributed and or were purchased by state agencies and the public. We took in $3,934. The 2025 prices for the mailed first class were $544 a packet for the session. With taxes, or if it was a tax exempt entity, it was $524. The document room pickup and building mail for non-state agencies was $219.90 with tax, or $200 for a tax exempt. On the second page, or it'd be the back page of the memo, is a table showing the different types of packets that were produced. Each state agency per LCC policy may receive one free packet for every session. Then they may purchase a packet after that for however many they want, and the price for the state agencies is $100. So the price for non-state agencies is $200 plus tax. For the state agencies, it's $100. And then if they want it mailed, it's another $325 for the full session. Postage rates have gone up just a little bit, and because of the shortened session a little bit. We don't have as many bill packets, so the offset of the less bill packets versus what may be there for a postage increase is all a wash. So I would recommend that the bill packets remain the same price as the 2025 session for the 2026 session. And with that, Mr. President, would take a motion to approve.
Questions for Tom? Seeing none, I'll take a motion. Speaker Hawkins.
So moved.
Got a motion, is there a second? Second by Senator Sykes. Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Number 5, consideration and approval of pricing for the Kansas statutes annotated and supplements. Gordon Self.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is, as required by law, the LCC sets the prices for the Kansas statutes annotated and the supplements thereto, and that amount is to be set based on the recovery of actual costs of printing of the volumes. After discussion with the printing plant with regard to costs of the materials used in the publication, I make the following recommendations for the 2025-2026 prices. The bound volumes would go down from $30 current to $28 a volume, and then the supplements would go up from $8 a volume to $10 a volume based on the costs of paper and other supplies with regard to the publication of the volumes. I'll stand for any questions.
Questions for Gordon? Seeing none, I'll take a motion to approve. Speaker Hawkins. Moved by Speaker Hawkins. Second. Looking for second. Seconded by Vice President Schaumburger. You need to quit flipping that pencil around. I keep thinking you're supposed to say. Oh, is that for real? Okay. We got a motion and a second. For further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. It's kind of like you're at an auction. Consideration and recommend. Oh, this is update on CETO. Tom.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to give the council an update on where the legislative CETO position is at the moment. During the August meeting, at the urging of Senator Blasey and a motion by this council and approval, Senator Blasey asked that we repost the position. The first round of applications that we received 12 applications for the CETO position. After the August meeting and a reposting of the position, we received 13 more applications. And so there are a total of 25 applications received for the legislative CETO position. We have each agency, legislative agency, has a representative who has evaluated all 25 of the resumes and given me their recommendations. And at this point, we have about 7 or 8 good candidates for the Legislative Coordinating Council Subcommittee on Administration to take a look at and/or interview. And at this point, I'm willing to send out all 25 applications to the members of the subcommittee if that's what you desire. But the alternative would be to send all 25 applications to your chiefs of staff, as well as the chiefs of staff of all the other 5 members if you so desire. And then I would just send the Subcommittee on Administration the 7 or 8 resumes that we feel as the legislative agencies would be deemed adequate or good candidates for that position. So just a little direction from the subcommittee or the full committee at this point, and then we will move forward and I can get those applications out to all the chiefs later this afternoon after a swearing in at 3 o'clock.
My first inclination is that anybody on the LCC should probably, if they desire, have access to the full 25 to see who actually did apply. So I don't know that that's a direction. I'll take input to send to all members, but certainly those of the LCC that would request to see them, I think they should be made available. I'm kind of curious, Tom, how the question, since it was a rebid, right, there you had 12 originally and 13 added. I'd be interested how many of the 7 or 8 that you whittled them down to came from the new 13?
It's almost half and half. It's 4 out of the first, 4 out of the second. A couple of them have veterans preference. Only one is qualified for the position and claiming veterans preference, so we would be interviewing that person as well. So,
Other questions for Tom? Seeing none, appreciate the
Thank
update. We're going to move to consideration and recommendations of the LCC Subcommittee on Administration regarding the ks modernization. And this can be an open discussion. The subcommittee just met, got the recommendation from the steering committee. I think disappointed would be an understatement to that report, that we seem to be going backwards. We're not just missing deadlines, we're regressing. So I think, as the chair of the subcommittee, I think I'll put it out for the full committee's discussion, but we do think our recommendation to the full committee is that we accept the steering committee's recommendation that we not go live this session either, because they're just simply not ready. And quite frankly, I think we need to I'd like to see the LCC direct the steering committee to come back to us by our December meeting with really recommendations reevaluating our relationship with Propylon, of what does that kind of have our revisers look at, what is the kind of from a legal analysis as well, where do we stand, what's ours, what's not ours, I feel like we've been treading water with this thing for a long time. So right now, the decision to be made by the LCC is accepting the recommendation and not going live, which I think is it's almost a necessity that we accept that recommendation. The second thing would be to direct our steering committee to analyze where we're at fully and come back to the LCC with a recommendation that evaluates our relationship with Propylon. Discussion. Speaker Hawkins.
Thank you, Mr. President. So go back I believe it was 4 years ago probably, when the Speaker Pro Tem at that time brought up the problems with Propylon. And they were many, very, very numerous problems. And at that time, quite frankly, there was a thought that we probably shouldn't continue our relationship with them then. And certainly we put this whole process through an RFP. The RFP came back, and Propylon seemed to actually be the best RFP for us at the time. It was certainly going to save us a lot of money by staying with Propylon, but we also thought at that time that Propylon would do a better job and that we could get this whole modernization process taken care of within, 3 to 4 years. Well, this is our second time now to put off going live, and I would venture to say, and it's just speculation, that we get there next year, we're probably going to put it off again. I don't think we're even close to being able to get this done. And you're right, it is very disappointing. And quite frankly, it amazes me that you can have a project like this and you can have a company that actually has a lot of knowledge about Kansas and their operations and how we do our bills, and to be over budget already, and still no end in sight, with lots of money being spent every single month. It's just disheartening. It's just a horrible use of our taxpayers' money. It's not the first time we've seen this. We've seen this in other projects that have been undertaken by the state when it comes to computer systems. This one is ours. This one has to do with us, and it affects us. And so I do think it's important that our steering committee comes back with all options available to us in December and really gives us a recommendation on whether we even stay with Propylon. I think reevaluation is probably the nicest word you could say. Quite frankly, I'm not sure that reevaluation is even right at this point. simply because they haven't performed well enough to even keep their contract going. I actually think that we ought to ask for money back because they haven't done well. So I agree with you, and at the appropriate time, I would certainly make the motion, but I'm sure other people want to talk. I'm very disappointed in this, and things have to change. We can't continue to do this.
Senator Sykes.
Thank you, Mr. President. I too have been very discouraged with this process. When it was supposed to go live last October, and we had to kind of punt the ball down the road. And then in July, first I want to say thank you to the steering committee, because I know I have been a pain trying to get those reports regularly since July. And as I have read those, it has been discouraging to read that it has been missed deadlines and regression. And so I stand with the speaker and the president that we cannot go live at this time, and we have to figure out a way to move forward. But this has been a disappointing progress, and I feel if I had not pushed this in July, asking for those regular reports, we would not know the extent of where we are in this, of really a misuse of funds. So thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Blasey.
Thank you, Mr. President. Gordon, quick question for you. With this system not going live in 26, we're going back to the old system, or I guess the current system. When will bill drafting start for the 2026 session?
Using the old system, bill drafting, we have prepared the conversion from the changes from 2025, so we can begin drafting in the old system today.
Okay. I know on Friday we had our retreat, the Senate Republicans did, and there's a lot of eagerness to start drafting bills for 2026 because we know there's a lot of demand this time of year, and so there's a pipeline, you got to get in the pipeline. And so I think this system delay has continued to delay that process, which is a foundational piece of what we do in this branch of government on writing law. And it's been extremely disappointing that we have a contract with a company that has gone way over budget, has gone way past deadlines, and anywhere else this would just be unacceptable. And yet we're continuing to dance with these guys. And so my hope is in December, we have some concrete answers or concrete solutions to really figure out what's best for Kansas taxpayers. Because like the speaker said, I almost feel like Propylon owes the taxpayers of Kansas this money back. They have not upheld their obligations of the contract, and certainly not the quality that we expected when we signed this contract years ago. So I share everyone's frustration and hope we can resolve this.
Any further questions? Any additional comments from any of the steering committee? Seeing none, Speaker Hawkins.
Mr. President, I move that the steering committee over the next month and a half work on the options that we have available to us to reevaluate this process totally. We need to know what our options are going forward, whether they believe that we should stay with Propylon and continue working on this, whether they believe that we need to, change that process, that we really need all of our options available to us, and that come to us by our December LCC meeting.
And that we're also recommend that we not go live this year.
And that we not go live this next year.
So that's a motion. I understand I got a question online, but I'll take a second, then we'll get that in discussion. Seconded by Senator Blasey. Representative Croft, did you have a question online?
No, I was just making sure we had a date certain and the speaker covered that, so I'm good.
Gotcha. Anyone else? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed,
Aye.
nay. Motion carries. Final item is discussion and possible action on changes to LCC Policy 38, correspondence and mailing. I got both Tom and Senator Blasey on this. Tom, do you want to start it, or Senator Blasey, did you want to? Okay, Tom Day.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Blasey and I were fighting over who was really going to speak first. But Policy 38 deals with correspondence and mailings for all legislators. This deals with the franking and the newsletter allotments that, that legislators have. And Senator Blasey has come to Gordon, self, and myself, asking for the possibility of some changes to Policy 38. And that would be the option or mandate, whichever we come up with, for changes so that Legislative Administrative Services pays the vendor directly as opposed to the legislator requesting reimbursement for their newsletter and postage allotments. I just, before Senator Blasey speaks, I would like to raise a couple concerns. And I have raised these generally with Senator Blasey and his staff. First of all, before a vendor can be paid, we must have a W-9 filled out from the vendor, which hopefully the vendor doesn't expect immediate payment without having the necessary paperwork to our office. That's just a requirement for any vendor that a W-9 has to be filled out. One of the other issues that I have come up with is the representatives each have $6,000. The senators each have $18,000 for their newsletter allotment. And I remember when we first passed this bulking of both postage and newsletter allotments, that the motion was made, and I believe it was the speaker that made the motion, if I recall, that this gives the legislators an opportunity to send out to everyone, most households within their district. When the franking amount, the postage amount, is also used during the legislative session. And so we don't necessarily know how much postage has been used when they send out a newsletter, especially if they send it out right at the tail end of the legislative session, because the postage bills come into us about a month later, and they cover a full month's range. So if a legislator goes out and spends $6,000, a representative spends $6,000 on postage and franking on their newsletter, they may owe us $400 or $500. They may have already used postage in the amount of $400 or $500. So we have to go and get that money from the legislator. Most legislators are very good about repaying the money of an overage like that. We do have some concerns with some that don't always follow up and pay that. The vendor, if we paid the vendor directly, we can only pay them what we know is the balance within that legislator's account. So if they want extra copies to pass out at coffees or anything like that, then we can only pay them $5,500 when they may have used $6,000 with the vendor. I'm not sure how the vendor is going to react to that, with us only paying them $5,500, and then he has to go collect the rest from the legislator. Just some concerns that I've had with this whole issue. So if we can work it out with language at some point to get that done, that'd be it'll be beneficial to legislators. I don't disagree with that. And especially for senators who have the larger amount of $18,000, that's a big chunk of change. $6,000 is a big chunk of change for a representative, but the $18,000 is a big chunk of change. In an election year, it becomes even more compressed because election year newsletters have to go out by sine die. And if our sine die in 2026 is April 12th, then it's going to be a rush for legislators to get that in. But I do know that they have graduation letters that they send out. Some of them have been sending out letters for unclaimed property, which may take $300, $800, which takes away from that $6,000. So just some of the concerns that I have, and at this point, Mr. President, I would yield to Senator Blasey for the proposal that he is requesting.
Majority Leader Blasey.
Thank you, Mr. President. Currently, that $6,000 for reps and $18,000 for senators, they can be used for various ways to communicate with their constituents. And the current process has been, if you're going to send a piece of franking mail to your constituents, you have to write the check personally, and then the state reimburses you for that expenditure up to your budget allotment. This new process streamlines it, in my opinion, at the request of members of our caucus who said, now that the LCC has raised $18,000, they said, I would prefer, or I cannot, write an $18,000 check with hopes then that the state will reimburse me later. This gets rid of the middleman, the legislator, and the state would just go directly with the vendor. To answer the two concerns that Mr. Day mentioned, him and I have discussed this at length, but I think most folks who do work with our members of the legislature for this franking would probably prefer to be a vendor and get paid directly from the state, so they don't have to do this whole chasing down the game as well. And I also think the other point, there is some self-responsibility on the lawmaker to ensure that they don't go over budget. When you submit an $18,000 invoice to LAS, before LAS even approves the newsletter, I would think LAS, you'd have to approve whether or not you could even write the check for that amount. And so if that invoice is more than what's in their account, we're not going to write a check yet to the vendor, therefore it's not going to get printed and mailed out. So that stops it right there. I think that's the check right there. So that lawmakers are going to have to decide if they're going to have to trim down the size of their mailing to ensure that it falls within that budget. So I believe that as long as we continue to follow the current process where LAS has to approve the mail piece that's going out and to ensure it complies or falls within the parameters of their budget, I don't see there being any issues. But ultimately, the goal of this new policy is to ensure that lawmakers can communicate with their constituents without having to be the middleman, having to write the personal check, and then the state reimburse them. So all we're doing is money jumping from account to account to account instead of point A to point B and calling it good and getting the message out to their constituents. So that is why I propose this motion, and I would answer any questions.
I had a quick question myself, because it seems to me to be appropriate, especially if it's not a mandate that they must pay the vendor. It's optional to the member. Like I know in the past, I never have enough franking to go out as far as you want to go. So I know I'm going to overrun my franking. So I have it. It works for me. You go pay for your franking and they reimburse. But could it be, was your intention for it to kind of be optional for the ones that want it to go directly to the vendor, that it's set up that way?
Sure. I mean, it's just another option. I mean, especially if you're going to use campaign funds, if it's even more than the $18,000 allotment, you're going to have to use that money either personally or pay for it out of your campaign account.
I would imagine you could even set up with the vendor if you had a, 18,000 your budget and you want to go out to 22, that you could have it split up where they bill the state for the 18 and the member for the 4.
Correct.
Right. So I understand that. Representative Woodard, do you have a question?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My points were made, so we're good. Just meant to lower my hand.
All right. Thank you. I can't see your hand anyway, for the record. They're just passing me notes. So any further questions? Senator Sykes.
Thank you for Tom, have you seen an increase in legislators using their franking with the increase in the amount, or is it still about the same percentage of legislators who are using it?
We've definitely seen an increase. In fact, most legislators, let me use senators first as the example. Most senators have been sending out anywhere from, and a lot of this depends on what vendor they're using as to how much they charge for printing. Most senators have been sending out somewhere around the $15,000 to $17,000 worth of printing and postage. Most House members have been anywhere from $5,500 to $5,800, but depending on how much they had left in their mail account, in their postage account. Because this time of year, we know exactly what they spent during the legislative session. It's just that timing in March, April, and May that we may not know for a month past that they sent out 500 graduation letters at a cost of about $475. So, but we have seen an increase.
Okay, my other follow-up. So previously, if we had done this through the state printer, you could, that was an automatic transition, like that you paid the state printer. So this is just for those outside vendors.
Correct, correct.
Thank you.
I should probably know the answer to this, but I don't. Is that a use it or lose it each year for the member? So if I spend 5,500 out of my 6, do I carry 5 over?
No. It's calendar year only, and then it stops.
Speaker Hawkins.
Thank you, Mr. President. So I'm going to come at this just a little bit different approach here. For the last 13 years, I've been sending out mail every year. I use my franking privilege. I always go over. Never do I come in under. And I have never had a situation where I had to put the money out first. The person that's been doing my mail, they pay for it. They send a bill into you. You let me know that you've got it. You send me a check, and then I pay them. I've never had to put money out, before that. So, and maybe if they're having to put money out before it, maybe they need to change vendors. But I personally think that it's a bad deal for you to have to pay every vendor. You have a system set up to reimburse the reps. Now you're going to have vendors, and you don't know if the rep has approved that invoice or not. So you're going to have to go through another step. Once you get the invoice, you're going to have to go through the step of calling or emailing or texting the rep and the senators to make sure that it's a correct invoice and that it's for the correct amount. Otherwise, how do you know that? So I personally am against this. I think it's a bill of mine. It's not a bill of the state's. All you're doing is reimbursing me for a bill that I have, that I've chosen to do. So I think it shouldn't be something that the state should be out there sending checks to vendors for something that's not something that you guys are asking for. It's something that we are doing personally. Thank you.
Senator Blasey.
Thank you, Mr. President. I guess that's news to me that you can just submit an invoice to the state and they're going to send you a check. How do we know that that money's actually being transferred over to the vendor that you're using to mail the documents? I thought you always had to submit a receipt that you paid it, so we knew that it was all legit. So I mean, I guess where's the check mark that we're ensuring that lawmakers are actually spending it where they say they're spending it? Otherwise, you're just going to send an $18,000 check and hope they use it the right way?
I have to admit, in my own case, I've gotten, not that I haven't submitted an invoice that I know, I just told them I'd spent it, and they did. To the speaker's point, I didn't think about that, but yeah, they reimbursed it before, and then I paid the vendor. Tom, do you have any addition to that?
Just a little addition to that. What the speaker was talking about, getting the invoice and then us seeing the invoice also. Usually, most of the vendors that legislators use will send us a copy of the invoice as well. But I think it's the check and balance as to, is that the correct amount? That part we don't know. We just see the invoice and we pay it, pay for the reimbursement.
And if the work was done, I assume you'd go under collections from your vendor too, if you didn't pay the bill. Senator Schallenberger.
Thank you. This is a curious situation. So I've used this, but I don't know how I did it. I got some guy here that does it for me.
Tyler, we know you're not.
So if I want $12,000 out of do I just call you and say I'm spending $12,000? Do you have to have something from me? Do I sign a note? I mean, a little piece of paper or?
We don't just send you $12,000. You send us, either you or the vendor, after you have done a newsletter, approved the newsletter to go out, then that vendor produces an invoice, and that's what you or the vendor sends to us for reimbursement back to you.
Send me the check.
And then send you the check.
If we did what Senator Blasey wants to do, you just send the check to the vendor.
Correct.
Same thing, it's just one less step.
Correct.
Okay.
With the concerns that I have as well. But
So meaning one less step for you, but he's got to go get W-9s. Is that what you mean by he's got to go get the vendor signed up? But once you have that, then it is as described, just one less step.
Yes. And most of the vendors have been around for a number of years. In the last 12 to 15 months, we have seen 3 new vendors that are they do duplicative work of what a newsletter mailing house does. They produce the newsletter for the legislator, then that production of that newsletter goes to the mailing house, and then the mailing house does all of their stuff, put it into the correct formats and then mail it out. That's an issue that came up this year where we had 2 of those types of vendors in addition to the regular vendor. And they were doing the production work. They were doing the layout. They were doing all this and then charging the legislator $1,000. And then we get an invoice, or the legislator got an invoice from the mailing house for another $4,000 or $5,000 in a representative's case. So, you know, we were seeing 2 different bills that weren't coming in at the same time. So maybe the production house had $6,000 worth of expenses, and then there's another $1,000 sitting out there that's coming in. Now, if we were to pay both of those vendors, then somebody's not getting paid, whether it's the production piece or whether it's the layout piece.
Senator, would you be amenable to me putting this on the next LCC meeting for an actual action item? Because I think I'd like to. I think it has merit. I think we need to look at it. Are you?
I mean, I think there's lawmakers ready to send out their franking so we can get this done. But I guess the concerns raised earlier by the speaker actually, to me, reinforce the reason why we need to do this. I mean, you can just submit a mailer and a invoice you make up and they send a check and you actually never have to follow through with it. I mean, where's the checks and balances ensuring that the money's being spent? I mean, I just think that even raises more questions.
Senator Sykes.
I think that also, I have always had LAS approve my franking piece that I send out. I mean, I get a copy of it and I approve it, but then I send to make sure like all my T's are crossed and I's are dotted to make sure that it fits the criteria for that it's not political, it's informative. So with what the speaker was saying, that sounds like there are some people who are not going through that approval from LAS to make sure.
Everyone goes through that because the vendors know to send us a copy for approval before they do anything back to you.
I think the way I hear that, the deception would be if somebody was up for it, you'd go through the process of approving a newsletter, find a vendor, have them send the invoice, and then at some point call the vendor and say, never mind. So the stuff didn't go out, you get the pay, and then that would be how that you'd spend some type of deceit there. I never even conceived of that, but I suppose that without the right check would be possible. So is the language change to the policy just to allow for direct payment? That's that simple? Okay, we can cast a vote on that.
I'll make the motion and we can see where the conversation or what the will of the council is if you're ready.
Yeah.
I move to amend LCC Policy 38 to allow legislative administrative services to pay printing and mailing service vendors directly for postage and newsletter printing effective immediately, and direct the reviser of statutes to draft and distribute to members appropriate amendatory language to LCC Policy 38 to effectuate such change.
My EDD kicked in. That was permissive, right? It isn't a mandatory.
Correct. It's just
Okay.
To amend it to allow.
Okay, fair enough. So I have a motion. Is there a second? Second by Senator Sallenberg. Is there discussion? Anyone online? All right. And seeing no further discussion, it's a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no.
No.
Motion carries. Yeah, one, Senator Sykes.
I do think this is allowing more people to use this franking, but I do think maybe in addition to this, we should look at some rules and regulations and kind of some best practices for the members of the legislature so that they know, because like I have always gone through those processes and then I had like a price for the print piece and then my postage, but making sure that there is something in writing so that legislators actually know the process in which we have to go through.
Comment accepted. That was the last thing on our agenda. Seeing nothing further, we are adjourned.